Hello, everybody, and welcome to lesson 5 of class, how to look forward when looking back. So, a couple things I want to knock out in the beginning is, well, if we're going to be moving forward but looking back, I want you to answer some questions for me because this is pretty much to find freedom and happiness. And this is somewhat of a process of how to do so that I picked up over time. So, the first question I want you to ask yourself is, what did you love doing as a child? So, once you have a minute, you can go ahead and pause this video. I'm going to keep moving through the questions, but go ahead and answer that question. What did you love doing as a child? Now, question number two, what did you spend the most time doing as a teenager? We all know that, well, yes, you follow your passions, but you should also follow your efforts. What did you spend a lot of time on as a teenager? That's question two. Question three, what did you learn by the age of 25 as an adult? Now, if you remember previous lessons, and I talked about psychology would dictate that the brain actually starts to lose its plasticity over time after the age of 25. So think about that question for a second before you answer. Question three, why do you hate where you are currently? This is an important question because if you can't come to terms with why you hate where you are currently, then you can't see what stands in your way and how to go ahead and solve that problem. Now, last question, number five. How could you change that by incorporating the answers from 1 through 3 so that you can live a better and happier and freer life? So those are your 5 questions there, and that's something that I want you guys to go over, in your spare time, or if you want, you could go ahead and back this up, pause it, so on and so forth, answer the questions, and then continue with the video. But moving forward, there's a quote and a rhythm that I'm starting to develop with these lessons. I always make a quote because, well, I speak in metaphor, analogy, and entendre. So if you don't understand what that means, by all means, please look up what those are and then come back to the lessons so that you can understand what it is that I'm saying and how I'm trying to communicate to you. But for the quote of this lesson, you cannot look forward without looking back. This is how you are able to see your value in a big world. So think about that, right? The other quote I want you to think about is this: the same energy it takes to accomplish something small is the same amount of energy it takes to accomplish something big. Now, this was something that was said to me by an amazing person who actually led Robert Kiyosaki's sales department a long time ago. And when she said this to me, I was like, oh, that's genius. I said, I'm definitely going to use that because it's in actuality very true. So think about those 2 quotes as we move forward. Now, this lesson is dedicated to a variety of people. It's meant for you, but there's a couple people that I want to, how do I say this? Dedicate this video to, especially since it's lesson number 5 and I was born on the 5th. And I'm going to say this right now. In this lesson, you're going to have to understand that it takes both the compass and a square. If you remember lessons 1 through 4, I talk about masculine and feminine energies. I talk about people working together, coming together, so on and so forth. The compass and the square, one guides while the other designs. You need both the blueprint and the guide to succeed in life, which is why if you ever get in business, they ask for a business plan. If you go to school, they give you a syllabus, so on and so forth. But then you need to design, you need to go to the class, you need to answer the questions, you need to formulate and design your answers, hence the questions above and the quotes that I stated earlier. So, what do I mean by masculine and feminine? People get this very confused because they think that I'm talking about males and females. I'm talking about the internal energy that you have. I'm using different language for those of you in the spiritual community, new age world. You guys call it your internal energy, so on and so forth. Psychology would talk about the left and right brain, so on and so forth. And there's many other things. Now, when it comes to the female energy, right? This is where you feel kind of embarrassed to show it. Now, depending if you're more masculine or more feminine, it will show and display. So let's talk about the feminine energy, right? And remember from last lesson, this V right here, which could also be mistaken for a lot of things, but this is the symbol for the feminine. Now, when it comes to the feminine energy, this is where you're in a state where you're more open, you can see a future, and you move by sound. And what I mean by this is if you ever been to a party and your favorite song comes on and you're like kind of embarrassed to dance, but you just can't help it, you have to move. Maybe you bounce your leg up and down to stay with the beat because you're embarrassed to dance because, well, maybe you got made fun of or whatever the case. It's okay, right? This is your feminine. And as long as you know how to identify it, then everything else will fall into place. Now, when it comes to the masculine, right? So the feminine is open and moves with sound, right? Let me make some space here. Now, the masculine, when you're in your masculine energy, you're less open, you're head driven, or as they say, hard headed, or it's hard for you to open up. And the only way you move is with proof. You know, some people will say, oh, I'm from the show me state, or where's your receipts, or, I need proof. So that's the masculine because it's been hurt so much. It's the masculine energy that you develop to protect yourself. So you need validation, proof, and a lot of receipts in order to believe or to move forward or to break through mental barriers. Whereas the feminine energy has more of an optimistic view. However, if you're stuck in the masculine energy, you'll just push back. Now, when it comes to using both these, you have to understand that the feminine energy speaks with optimism, whereas the masculine energy speaks with conviction because of all the proof that they have. Think about doctors or people who have elaborate degrees. When they speak with conviction. Quite honestly, a degree only makes you confident. It's only after developing the experience that you actually know what you're doing because you get exposed to the environment. In psychology, it's called exposure therapy. Now, when it comes to feminine and what's it called? The masculine energy. Together, they combine the skills, right? So if you guys work together, if you ever studied in business or in other places, everybody has a equal to opposite partner, right? Just like in physics, there's always an equal to opposite reaction. So wherever you lack, normally the partner will make up for that. So when they're putting people together or when you're coming together as a person in general, you want to understand that both the masculine and feminine are internal. However, you normally are one sided or the other. This is where you have to find what's known as balance within you, yourself, so on and so forth. However, the partner normally will go ahead and balance out the weaker part of you. So it is true that the number of relationships you also have contributes to the length of life that you have. So if you think you can do everything on your own, that's great. However, you get further with the multitude, right? So remember this. And I think it was Mark Cuban that also said this, but you can see this with Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. May he rest in peace. There's always two in business. There may be the entrepreneur, but then you have the marketer. There may be, or the innovation and then the marketing, said by Peter Drucker in the Effective Executive book. And Mark Cuban once stated that he's all over the place. So he normally tries to find somebody that's more organized than him to keep him on track. And that's what also led to his success. You could see this in many different areas of life. A doctor will have a specialized nurse. A CEO will have a secretary. Think Tony Stark and Pepper Potts, so on and so forth, or Doctor Strange and his crew. So one of the things I want you to latch onto is this acronym. It's called CAVEAT, right? So just for definition's sake, because I need to be a little specific here. Caveat is not only a word, but its definition is an explanation to prevent misinterpretation. It also is defined as a modifying or cautionary detail to be considered when evaluating, interpreting, or doing something. Now, I did turn this into an acronym. Excuse me. I did turn this into an acronym. So we're going to start with the first letter. Now, if you remember anything from lessons 1 through 4, especially seeing in between, Please, if you haven't, go back, watch those lessons, and then you'll understand this one. Now, getting back to the lesson, C would stand for, well, create. You want to create something, right? So we have C, which is create something that'll light up the eyes when someone actually sees it, right? A great work of art, your photography, your videography, your artwork, your Etsy store, your business, your life, your children, your wife, so on and so forth, etc. When you do something for someone else or you create something for someone else, you want to create something that's going to light up the eyes. Think Christmas, right? The A in caveat. You want to make sure that it's something that's actual and tangible. Now, this may sound like smart goal setting, but this is a little different, right? Because when it's an actual thing that brings meaning, it's different than something that's just tangible, right? A diamond doesn't look like a diamond when it comes out the ground. What makes it valuable is how the architect and the mason work together to go ahead and cut the diamond, right? So on and so forth, because it's a stone. So architect, masons used to go ahead and use stones and cut stones, so on and so forth. And a diamond, when cut correctly, is valuable and becomes more valuable due to the amount of light that shines and so on and so forth. So think that way, right? Now this goes with other gems as well, sapphires, rubies, topaz, etc. The third letter in caveat, V. You want to go ahead and have a vision of the future. You want to go, the reason why I state this, it's going to match the questions that I said earlier. Tim Ferriss, who wrote the book 4 Hour Work Week, once said, you want to ask yourself these two questions or this question and then do this. And what the question was is, what would this look like if it were easy? So, after you answer the questions above and you're trying, you list out your goal, you want to ask yourself, how would I get there? Well, in mathematics, the quickest distance or the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. However, life is not a straight line. So the way you can do this is by reverse engineering. Start with the end result and then work backwards. It's always harder to move forward if you don't know where you're going, so on and so forth, etc. You didn't take a plan, etc. Blah blah blah. However, if you know where you're going, you can plan and reverse engineer, work backwards, maybe apply something called fear setting, which also comes from Tim Ferriss, where you make 3 columns. In the first column, you write down everything that could go wrong. The second column, you want to go ahead and write all the ways you could go ahead and prevent that. And then in the last column, if the prevention doesn't work, how do you recover? Once you answer all those things, you have what's in business known as an SOP, or standard operating procedure, just in case when things go afray. If you get into more things like project management, so on and so forth, they have 6 Sigma, so on and so forth. So for ever amount of attempts or things that you are at bats that you get, there's only maybe a handful of mistakes that occur along the way. And this is what fear setting will help, with that, because it will reduce the problems and the stress that will come with those problems, because you have a plan in place to not only prevent but recover in case it doesn't work. So have a vision of the future. Next letter, E. You want to engage with others. Now, in some areas, this may be known as research, right? But you also want to engage with others, because what happens is most people will, if you remember perspective versus perception, most people operate based upon their own perception, right? But perception's reality. So it is what you make it. However, if you learn to tweak your perspective, you can see things differently. And the only way you are really able to do that is if you put yourself in different environments around different people to get different exposure therapy, so that you can grow as an individual and get insights from everybody, those that know you, those that don't know you, those that somewhat know you. So make sure when you go out there and you're developing your plan and your pursuit to freedom and happiness, that you get around people. Let them know your ideas, because this also holds you accountable, because the next time you see them, they're going to ask you about that thing if they truly care. And then, of course, because of that accountability, this holds you into this or puts you into this situation where either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. Or as they say, you're either about it or you're not about it, because talk is cheap and actions speak louder than words. So moving forward with the next letter A, action is power. And that's why I led into that. You have to take action. You can't just sit around and think. You can't just talk about things. You have to take action. The thing is, people move towards pleasure and away from pain all the time. And this is very similar to, well, fear. People will move from what they fear to what makes them feel good or where they feel safe all the time. However, if you take action and push back, you'll be able to get a lot further. You get stronger. Think about like going to the gym. You don't develop a callus on your hand from not lifting weights. Your body is not dumb. Your brain is very intelligent. And the reason why you have a callus on your hand is to protect you so that you could keep pushing forward. Just like when you work out in the gym, you tear muscle fibers, your body gets stronger and your muscles recover, so on and so forth, because you have micro tears that occur, and then you become stronger once they heal, meaning that you're able to lift more weight, do more, etc., run faster, further, stronger, etc. And for those of you in the Olympics, I hope you guys crush it this year. So moving forward, T, timing is everything. So a lot of people say that, and I'm going to steal this from Tony Robbins, that they like surprises, right? But surprises also come with proper timing, because I could ask somebody if they like surprises and quickly they only think about the positive surprises, right? What about the negative surprises, right? Oh, you have debt now. Oh, you blew out 4 tires. You got to spend money on an uncalculated expense, so on and so forth. Oh, the baby got sick, so now we got to spend money. Oh, there's a storm coming and it damaged. There's no power. We got to buy a generator, so on and so forth. Timing is everything. But remember, if you don't anticipate the surprises in your life, i.e., call back to fear setting, then you're not going to have a preventative measure there, and therefore it's going to increase your stress levels, and then you're going to try to figure out how to recover because you never put the forward thinking before and worked backwards. So remember, caveat, right? Now let's get into this. So caveat C, everyone has a built-in operating system or an OS. This would be your behaviors, your habits, otherwise known as your routine or patterns. These things make you predictable in life, and psychology would dictate that, right? Now, being predictable is not eye-opening, which is why within caveat, I made sure to state that you want to make sure you light up the eyes, right? Because if you're too predictable, then you're not going to open up anybody's eyes, right? So let me take a sip of the tea here. Moving to the next letter, actual. Your actual idea for the future must be realistic and bring meaning. So if you walk up to a stranger and you hand them a diamond ring, does it mean anything? Probably not. Now, if you walk up to the love of your life, so on and so forth, and hand them a diamond ring, what does that mean, right? Different context, different timing, different situation, but the meaning is different, right? So you want to make sure it actually fits what it is that you're trying to do. Now, when it comes to V, your vision, is your vision something that lights you up, not just others? Because yes, it's great to help others, but you also have to put your own mask on. So why not put your own mask on, do what you love, create something that you always wanted to create that's going to light up the eyes of others? Think about Christmas again, right? In Christmas, you don't care how much money you spend on the gifts. It's the eyes of the children that light up when they see the gifts that make it all worth it. And therefore, by which, well, you don't care anymore. Yep. You did something not only for yourself and for your children or for the children. However, you also did something that brought yourself joy, kind of like a magic trick, right? How did you do that? You get that whole thing. Or, oh my God, Santa came, he ate the cookies, drank the milk, so on and so forth. And that whole thing is something that is memorable forever. Now, when you engage and you're engaging to not just engage with other people, but the reason of your engagement is to create a better future for yourself and others and build a better world for yourself and others. So you want to engage with others with this purpose because it keeps you on your toes and creativity by hearing multiple ideas, right? And if you need help or you want to build better neural pathways in your brain, remember you have a left side and a right side. Most people don't know this trick, but if you want to build some neural pathways in your brain, you can start doing things that are difficult so that your brain can start putting those neural pathways in place, and then you'll get faster and faster. For instance, if you're a righty or a lefty, most people would say if you're a righty, you think with the logical side of the brain. Well, that's interesting because the right hand correlates to the left side of the brain. The left hand correlates to the right side of the brain. So try writing with your other hand and force that creativity to come out, right? And that's your left and right brain because one side handles the creativity, the other side handles the logic. And the quicker you're able to get them to work together, the faster and more movable you are. Now, for the last one, timing. Timing is everything. You don't want to be too early and you don't want to be too late, and this is why I mentioned the Olympics, because you're going to see this in the Olympics. It's all about timing, especially now that we have Muay Thai and breakdancing, something that I hold dear to my heart because I've been doing it for years. And anyone who knows me knows that I've been doing martial arts and dancing for several years. So when you see comedians, they have something called comedic timing, right? Or you could talk to any actors. They talk about the pacing and the timing within the communication between the two actors. Then you have fighters and dancers that understand timing very well. They hear the beat, they know where to move, they know how to move. And because they're on beat, it gives them or gives you the impression that they have what's known as or called rhythm, right? Because they're moving in sync with the music and they're communicating at the same time. So think about that for a second as I wipe the board and we move forward. So getting back to the expression, the same energy that it takes to accomplish something small is the same energy it takes to accomplish something big. Well, last time I checked, um, it doesn't take the same. It doesn't take a lot more energy to do something bigger, right? And the reason I say this is because we have technology now, right, including AI. Whatever you thought was difficult isn't really that difficult. Maybe your fear of coming to terms with, I don't want to learn this, it's too hard, and you talk yourself into this negative pattern. I don't need to learn this. I don't want to work with AI, so on and so forth. But if anybody who's in business or anywhere around the world that's using AI can tell you is that it's going to get rid of the mundane jobs. And what I mean by that is I tested this even with coding because I've been around developers and programmers, and it'll actually go ahead and either create code for you if you need something, right? If you give it the right prompt, or you can go ahead and check your code with it and it'll go ahead and either correct it automatically or tell you where the flaws are. So now those high salaries are not going to be there because there's going to be less people. So they're going to have to be forced into the creative space because all the logical jobs like accounting, like not creative accounting, but regular accounting, and other things are going to be taken over by technology. So why not use it to your advantage? Similarly to the way you can utilize your phone to your advantage because, well, your phone also operates like a laptop or a computer. And if you understand how to use it in such a manner, you can also be on the move, live your life more free, travel, and still get work done. So, excuse me, lost my voice. Long story short, I like to sing in my car, raised my voice too much, and I blew out my voice for about 2 days. So I'm still recovering. So forgive me. But, when it comes to class, I want you to understand this because it deals with creativity, logic, art, science, and spirituality. And this is for all you people that are in one of those categories, right? If I were to break it down, using numbers or what's known as gematria, right, where every letter has a number attached to it, well, you can see some things, right? And so with class, you have to understand that The letter C equates to the number 3. L is 12, A is 1, S and S, that's 19 and 19. When simplified, or if you're looking at the digital root for all you programmers out there, or people that are into numerology where things simplify down to one number, it'll come out to the number 9. Now, what's the meaning in that? Well, number 9, if you look it up on Google or anywhere else, stands for, well, do not lie, judgment, respect, wisdom, so on and so forth. Now, when I'm going through this, and I mentioned caveat, I also mentioned the letters C and V, which I also mentioned in previous lessons as well. The letter V is the 22nd letter of the alphabet, and then of course C is the third. Now, when I put these together, you get the number 25. When simplified, it comes out to 7. Now, hang on to this because, as you know, there's always a pattern with everyone. And if you've been picking up on what I've been putting down in lessons 1 through 4, you know something's coming at the end, which is called a big reveal. So 22 times 3 equals 66, right? And because we're talking about spirituality here, well, there's 66 books, right? At least in one part of the area of the world. Whereas in some other areas, there are, if you take 7 and add it to 66, that comes to 73, which makes the 73 books, right? So 66 plus 7 will give you your 73. That's the other number of books, but there's a total of 81. And so if you were to take 66 plus 73 plus 81, you should come out to the answer of 220. Now, if you are in science, the medical field, if you work with computers, so on and so forth, go ahead and Google, or you can use AI because it's faster, and ask what's the significance of the number 220 in different areas. And it will tell you because we use it when it comes to instruments. We use it on the periodic table. We use it in physics. We use it in spirituality. And if you were to simplify, the 0 is just a placeholder, and that's still 22, which is a callback, right, to before, because in the beginning you had the letter V when I talked about E equals MC squared, which was the representation of the letter C for light in physics. Now, if we continue to move forward from here, erasing these numbers, sticking with just the 66, excuse me, the 66 and 73. Now, when two numbers are next to each other, it's one or two things you can do. You can either add or multiply depending on the explanation or the thing that you're looking for. So we already added 66 plus 7, we got 73, right? Well, 7 plus 3, that equals 10, doesn't really mean anything. But 66 and 73 equal 3 when simplified, right? Because 6 plus 6, that's 12. Simplified, that's 3. 7 plus 3 will give you 10, that's 1, and that equals 4. Now, if you study numerology, you're picking up what I'm laying down. If not, it's perfectly fine. Now, moving forward, if we were just to take 6 plus 6, that's 12, and then the 10, that also comes out to 22, which is the callback. So definitely look up what 220 means so you have a better understanding. And then, of course, if you were to take, if I remember correctly, 66 plus 73, that should come out to roughly 139. And this is a callback to, I think, my first lesson when I talked about 1, 3, and 9. What's the significance of this? Well, we have 9 planets in the solar system. Earth is the third rock from the sun. And, well, we only have one of those. But let's take it a step further. There's 9 months it takes to make a baby. There's 3 trimesters, and it only comes out one at a time. So think about that for a second, right? So look up the significance of that before you start to contest whatever it is that I'm saying and deliver a pushback and have a better understanding. Last but not least, if you look up my numerological number, it comes out to a 22-4. Not a big deal, but I want to go a step further because now this is lesson 5. And because we're talking about creativity, logic, art, science, and spirituality, for those of you who have been paying attention and have been picking up what I'm laying down, this is lesson 5. So, what's the significance of lesson 5? Well, before I get to that, let's talk about it. What does 5 mean? Google the meaning of 5, right? Well, 5 can mean grace and freedom. But the letter V, which I showed you earlier, and what we spoke about earlier, which used to represent light, also can be the Roman numeral for the number 5. Now, if you were to say 555, 55, 555, which is normally in TV shows, so on and so forth, well, that's VVV. Well, what's VVV? Well, a long time ago, if you're still thinking about Rome, if you're on social media, you can think of Vidi Vidi Vinci. I came, I saw, I conquered, right? Or if you're looking at car symbols, because there's signs all around us, if you're looking at a Volkswagen symbol, you have one V, and then you have, well, a W. But if I were to split this and draw a line in between, that's VVV. Interesting, right? Now, the reason why I called out Volkswagen is because, well, we are dealing with the Olympics and they also make Audi, but they only have 4 rings, whereas the Olympics have 5. And if you've been paying attention to my other videos, so on and so forth, I used to wear a black ring. And if you look at the Olympics, so on and so forth, with all the colors in their logo, there are 5 rings and a black one in between the blue and the red. I'll let you think about that one for a second. Now, when it comes to Volkswagen, you have to remember it's a German vehicle. And because we're talking about the spiritual world and intelligence and creativity and logic, we have to thank Gutenberg, because without him, we wouldn't have the printing press or paper or books, so on and so forth, where you can learn majority of the things that I'm speaking now. Now, the great thing about this is that I'm about to speak to you in metaphor, analogy, and entendre. So this is lesson 5, right? Now, this is how you spell 5 in English. And this is where I'm going to break it down. So if you remember seeing in between, remember, do not judge a book by its cover, before one day it might save you. If you were to look in between, right? If you need help, if you need, support, so on and so forth, you're going to need a lifeline, right? Remember the TV show, what is it? How to Win $1 Million or whatever, or so on and so forth. And they say, hey, you want a lifeline? Well, if I look in between, when you get in trouble and medically, you need an IV. They normally give you an IV, which is in the middle of the word 5, right? Now, if you've been staying with me this whole time, if you look at the beginning, because of perspective and perception, if you were to get rid of this and draw a line in the middle, and you look at the first 2, well, you get 5. Well, what is 5? Well, if you study history, you know that, yes, it's Fi, but the sound is still there, and sound came before the written word. And phi in Greek is, well, philosophy, right? You ever heard of sci-fi? It's the combination of psychology with philosophy. Think about that for a second, right? Now, when it comes to everything else, you have the V and the E. Well, E equals MC squared, but V was before C. So if I take the V, which represent light, right? And let me straighten this line here. What is light but energy? So if the V used to represent C, you can look at this as light, and light equals energy, which is the letter E. So this has been lesson 5 of class. I know it was a lot, and it was condensed for specific reasons. And I wanted to emphasize the way, not only that I communicate, but the way I speak to many, so that you can understand. And now I'm going to use this. This is going to be one hell of an entendre. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael Guerrero, and I used to be a Marine. However, I went into marketing, and it's a long story, but this video is dedicated, and I'm going to say it in just this manner, to someone I like to call Gunny Gary. Now, I'll give you a brief history on that. There is one gentleman they both have the same name. There's many Garys out there. However, when I was in the military, there was a gunnery sergeant Gary that gave me an opportunity before I had my surgery, so on and so forth, and I decided to get out of the military. Then, when I got into marketing, I discovered somebody named Gary who spoke like a gunnery sergeant in the Marines, and I love him for that. And I also know that his favorite number, because he said it publicly, is number 5. So, this is my dedication to the both of you, lesson 5. And well, I just want to say thank you to all of you. And if it means anything of anything, I was born on the 5th day, which is Labor Day. So I guess someone thought I was going to be working a lot and eventually I would need a day off. That was the inside joke, at least. Thank you, everybody. Love you. I'll talk to you later, and get ready because lesson 6 is on the way. Take care. Have a great day.